in a sea of Maugas be Ramattra, which, maybe not the best thing ever, not the best alternative, but we'll take it. I want to talk today about Nightmare. Nightmare were, a pretty good team this season, or in this bracket for OWCS, this round robin stage. They went 6-1, but the interesting thing about Nightmare is that once the meta shifted into this Mauga position, Nightmare actually opted not to play it. They're playing a Ramattra comp into this Mauga comp that is pretty dominant throughout this stage in EU, NA, most, I think, part of Korea. So I want to talk to you today about, like, how? Like, what is the theory behind this? How were they able to accomplish this, I think it's really interesting. I think it's actually a really cool development of the meta, Basically, I think that this comp is kind of countering Mauga. And you see a lot of the time they don't run this unless it's into this Mauga style. And there's a reason. Specifically, I think it's into this Juno, Brig, Mauga backline style. So basically what I wanted to talk about here is just like, I'll play some of this for you. I'm going to talk about this match. What is the idea behind this comp, right? Like, what actually makes this tick? Well, I think that a lot of, was this an example I had to play? It was an example I wanted to play. Well, basically, I think a lot of what goes down here is that the Mauga comp is very, like, it's kind of strange, right? Because it plays slower, plays sustain, and plays together. And the Ramattra kind of disrupts that a lot, right? You have to really play around the shield. You have to play around it, really the Ana nade as well. I think Ana is a really crucial part of this. Basically, since the Mauga comp has to play so together, it's harder to take those angles. The angles are softer overall. That allows the Ana and, the Sojourn, the long range Hitscan to get into better positions to, surround the comp, right? To surround the Mauga, and, hopefully you're going to kill the other people first, because Mauga, he's not, he's not going to be taken down so easily. But I feel like that's like a really crucial part of like how this comp wants to play. Lucio is really good at, one, getting Ana in and out, having her play more aggressive, but two, fortifying a lot of the angles that the DPS might want to take mid-fight, right? Even if they did try to take an angle, then you run into, another DPS with a Lucio on that angle, and it's gonna look pretty rough for you, right? Ram, I think, is also really important here because shield is super versatile. He can cut off the Mauga's game plan, like from his backline, so his backline can't do much. You'll see the Juno will kind of like jump out of position because she needs to get around the shield to heal her Mauga up. But also it can really stop Mauga sustain because of, the shield is complete mitigation. That's a really, really important factor here as well. I think those are the very like basics about how this comp really plays into it. And also, like, once the Ramattra is on your backline, there's not a lot that the Brig can do, and the Juno really has to like fly away. So it can keep the sustain, like the support for the Mauga away from, the main fight, right? I think that's pretty important. You want to make it uncomfortable for Mauga to aggress and to abandon the backline. I think that is one of the most relevant factors here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take a look at this, and this kind of explains and kind of visualizes a lot of how I think about this, right? So you see here we'll start a little farther back. I want you to take notice. You see the Speed Ring Mauga coming out right here? Classic comp, right? Classic strat that we're going to be playing. Now you see you've got somebody over here. It looks like it's Knife on the Genji. Battling the Lucio. So there you go. That's part of that angle control, right? Lucio is also still like preventing the angles from being taken on his backline. This Ana indirectly protecting her. And you'll see Mauga is going to run in past everything. Lethal slides away. Zera goes to help deal with the Genji. Brig is trying to walk up into a shield. And a Mauga, or not a Mauga, a Ramattra, who is punching her. So now she's not in a very good spot, and RuPaul is out of position trying to get sightline on his Mauga, right? Because if we scroll back, look at where that shield comes up. This is where RuPaul is playing around this. He can't sit here with this break. He's going to have to go over here to heal. They all turn on this Genji because, that's, they just don't take that angle. Kuffa finds Vega, right? He runs on the brig. And the Mauga is stranded in the backline with no one to help him. Tree is just kind of doesn't know where to go. And it's an easy cleanup, right? I think this is like a perfect counter engage from this team, right? And I think that's what you're looking for against this Mauga comp. I think it's really, really interesting. And something else to note as well, I really like the adaptations that a lot of the Anas take, is that they get the double Bionade as well as the self nano to enable themselves to get super aggressive, right? As the fight goes on, as the game goes on, Ana becomes so much more of like a less fragile version of herself that she can do some of these really tricky maneuvers. Another thing I really want to point out about this comp is that Kuffa is going to be playing forward when he can a lot. He is going to be playing doors. He is going to be playing, if they get control, Kuffa, you're going to watch the Ramattra comp run towards the gate, right? This is crucial because Ramattra does not want to get poked out at all. He does not want to have to use his shield to block poke. He has better uses for his shield. So you're going to see him attempt to stay up as long as possible, especially if Infected, the Mauga here, decides to run past him. He's already in position to walk on the back line instead of having to wait or get poked out or you know what I mean? It doesn't give them any time to set up. Now, he gets checked here, Infected finds him, and so he eventually goes away. But keep an eye out as we go through the rest of these games. Now, I wanted to bring that up because we're not actually talking about that game. We're talking about the grand finals, which, ironically, just started with Nightmare playing the Mauga. Now, Ramattra was banned on this first map, and they have the Winston coming out because I think they assumed that they would see a Winston mirror. I think Nightmare are trying to play a very cheeky idea here, right? They're trying to play very cheekily, what if we just play Mauga into the Winston comp? They aren't expecting it. It's kind of a funny idea. I like it in theory, and it works for them for a little bit. I don't actually remember who takes this first point. I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was a funny interaction, a funny adaptation. Later in the series, you're actually going to see Kuffa start on, and let me be clear, they don't play the Ram the whole time, right? Once they don't really play a lot of Mauga either team. Even SSG don't play a lot of Mauga. I wanted to show you just that aggression, right? Kuffa playing in the train, playing up, the rest of his team getting ready to support, right? And just look how fast they take this, right? They speed ring already, even though they're basically in the attacker's spawn as defenders. And they just go, right? And they try and go, and they're all super aggressive. Zera hasn't used Deflect yet. Ultraviolet's getting ready for those torpedoes to keep it going. And it's just really it's not just aggressive, but they also wrap. Did you see that? They're being aware of the core, right? Because again, the Mauga comp has to play together. Sugar Free is with his Mauga, and there's other people here. But you'll see the team, they divert into the train car to take some angles, right? Sugar Free goes off on his own, almost gets a good kill, but the team has Nightmare have counter-rotated them. So it's really, really interesting the way that they're setting up, going fast, but also using that speed to set themselves up for another hit. And you can go fast with these hazard compositions, right? And it ends up working out for them for at least a little bit here, one good fight. And I think that's really important. Again, playing fast, playing early, having your position ready to go, important. Next here, I want to show you, we're on the Ramattra here as well, but I think how Kuffa takes this is really important. Do you see? He's coming from behind, right? So this is Ramattra into the Mauga. They don't have the positional advantage. They have to find a way to get closer to this core without using resources, especially the shield. So Kuffa just decides to go main and go under here, which I think is really good because he's just going to hard wrap around, and then immediately he's got pressure on the backline, prevents this angle from happening, forces Seeker into main, where Lethal, who, and you're going to see a lot of Ashe this series as well. I really like this idea of forcing people out of their positions and always having a consistent hit scan like the Ashe to catch them, right? Because Sojourn, she may not have rail all the time. She's not as consistent in just catching someone randomly. But if you know that you're going to be like, especially early, right? This is early that they forced out Seeker. So he's half health, and that's just one Ashe shot, and it's instantly done. Ashe, of course, also has that Viper's Sting. I think that's what's called, the perk, where she just gets more damage for hitting scope shots continuously. That's also really good pressure on the Mauga to boot. Lethal doesn't actually, or Seeker doesn't actually end up going down there, but I think that's kind of like what they're going for, right? Lethal is just really far away. Not much that he can do, but it doesn't matter because the damage was done. I think this was a really, really important engage. The amount of damage that they got out of this, you know, just making them completely scatter. They're trying to play together, and the Nightmare's comp is forcing them out of that, out of the comfort zone. They're not allowed to play like the Mauga comp is going to play. And I think that's, again, that's really important. I'm going to keep saying important. I think that's the buzzword that I'm going to go with a lot here. Here on this side, again, I wanted to show you it's Kuffa's positioning. And I think this is like really key, right? The tank's positioning. He's over here on the right. He's got his Genji over there, right? They've already got the surrounding angles ready to go. And as Space Station just send it down main, it's going to be a little more difficult for them to actually, you know, get in there. They use that speed ring, but they're not going for it. And I think that's actually like a common theme where they attempt to go and they aren't ready, or they use it in the wrong scenario and they waste something, right? The speed ring, there's no use. They wasted the speed ring, and guess who else had used the speed ring in a better way? Even though it was later, they were still kind of like sitting around main waiting for it to happen, waiting for something to happen, and they just get run down, right? And I think Nightmare were really, really good at running down, at being super aggressive, hyper aggressive, not letting them breathe. You do not want to let the Mauga comp breathe at all. Put the pressure in their face. You know, don't let Mauga set the tempo. I think that's what you're looking for, right? Next here, let's just see like how they take this, right? Because they're going to be set up. Space Station is set up on the defense here. Nightmare coming in, they have to, you know, set the precedent. And I think that this Lucio Juno with the Genji just, again, allows them to surround them. They're already, 3 of them are already just gone in the backline. They've completely lost that space, and they've lost their Juno. Mauga's just going to crumble instantly, right? They're not fighting for this space. Why? Because they kind of can't with this comp. And I think that's where this Mauga comp struggles. Not to say that I don't think it's doable. I think it obviously is. People have beat Nightmare on this Mauga comp before. Nightmare did go into the losers bracket against Space Station. But I think Nightmare really leveled up their game plan here. As they were, you know, figuring out, they're being more confident, just being like, listen, they really can't do that much about it in this situation. Here I want to show you kind of the Ana POV, you know what I was talking about, being aggressive, being ready. You see Ultraviolet, this is a choke right here, right? But Ultraviolet's playing very close, especially into a Winston dive composition, right? Sorry, over here. But he's getting ready because he wants to be able to be in the fight, get the nade out as soon as possible. Now, Kellen hits a crazy good bubble that blocks the nade. But since it's a bouncing nade, it hits Ultraviolet, and it, you know, hits, I'm pretty sure it hits, what's it called, Admiral as well? Yeah. So his backline is like super good. So that was actually pretty lucky from him. But you've got Kuffa just in the backline using that safe primal, just some really good mechanics on it. And they just run them over, right? Again, they were not ready for it. That's not where you typically take a fight. And they had everybody there, and they took the full undivided attention of the Winston, so that theirs with Primal, there's no peel, right? And that's really important with these Ana Lucio comps. It's a lot harder to peel effectively. Even though he did not take Groggy, you know, Ultraviolet still thinks it's better to run this Bionade here. And in turn, they just played super aggressive, and I think there were some really nice Primal mechanics from Kuffa. The Australians maybe can Primal, let's go. I'm pretty sure Kuffa's Australian. Somebody correct me if that's not true. Next here, I've got a clip from Colosseo. Now, this is actually from the POV of Space Station. Again, this really shows, I think, the difference maker here was that Space Station had a couple of times where they did not commit. They were not ready, right? So you see Bliss, there's some kind of miscommunication here. Bliss is ready to go. They've got multiple people, I think right off screen is Kellen. You've got literally everyone here. There's the whole core sitting right here. And Space Station had the ult advantage with the beat and the overclock as opposed to Admiral's sole beat. He goes, or he amps, but nobody actually goes anywhere. And I think that probably Kuffa saw this. Not only does this mean that they have not as much aggression, it also means that they don't have as much sustain. So, seeing that happen, they just set the tempo. Kuffa just walks forward, jumps in, gets the beat from Admiral. Ultraviolet comes in with that crazy nade, hits the backline, right? CJ's up too close. CJ probably getting ready to run in, trying to do the same thing. But since the speed was misplayed, kind of in a bad position, got screwed over. And Bliss's beat is too late because they weren't ready to set the tempo. So Nightmare really just kind of Uno reverse carded them. And I think that was really the difference maker in a lot of these crucial fights. Now, did Space Station win this map? Yes, they did. Nightmare did not win this map, but Nightmare won the next two maps and forward-2'd the series. So I think it's still, it's still important, right? Nightmare won that fight. They were up ahead. Like, they very well could have won this map off of one of these types of plays. Last clip that I have here, as we're in a very, different, no Sojourn available, and of course, they're both teams are not going to be playing Mauga. So here I want to show you a little bit of a different flair. We've got an ult fight, right? We're 99-99 basically, and Space Station have way better ult advantage, right? They just need to open things up with Kellen. Hopefully Sugar Free can build the ult, whatever it's called, Tectonic Shock, to combo with it. But Seeker also has the Deadeye to combo with it, right? So it's really good at combo, as opposed to Lethal just getting his online and Zera not having it, right? So Space Station really need to get these ultimates online and get going. And they do. They do take this aggressive. Kellen just walks in with the speed ring. Lethal pops the Deadeye, but it's not really going to matter because he's got a lot of bulk on him. But I want to make something clear. As you saw, somebody on Space Station went down because Zera, there he goes, checks the angle. He knows that they're going to play fast. He knows they have the ult advantage. So he decides to go insanely early. One, to build his ult, but two, to check the angle to prevent as much follow-up on those ults. And ideally get a kill. And guess what? He goes right for the Lucio and snaps him out of existence. So one support already down. The only support that would have reasonably maybe built an ult by the end of the fight, dead. Zera not in danger of the ults, okay? Then you've got this team. Lethal is putting a lot of pressure on Kellen. He's able to pop and somehow hit CJ. I do not know where CJ was, how he is in the range of this Deadeye. Probably a pretty poor play from him. But the Deadeye also does a lot of damage to Kellen. So even though Kellen gets Ultraviolet, they have one support and they have a blade. So Admiral's going to go support Zera while he's blading. Kellen might get two, but it really doesn't matter anymore, right? It's too late. Sugar Free did not build the ult. Seeker didn't even pop the ult because Nightmare just booked it. They knew what the win con was, and they knew what they had to do in order to win. I think it is really, really good play, and I'm really impressed by what they were able to accomplish in this meta. Like, playing off meta is hard, but if you get it right, it can like really, really pay dividends for you. So, with that being said, that's what I've got. That's what I think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe, of course, as always. But what do you think about this match? Did you watch any of these? I think these are some of the best games I had seen in a little bit. I hadn't really been watching, especially NA, just because like how the time frames have worked out. And I was kind of half watching because I was playing Monster Hunter, as always. But I had a really good time watching this weekend. I'm excited for China. I might do a viewer's guide for China, but I'm not sure. I'll probably talk a little bit more about the chances that the teams have rather than like the format. But I don't even know when the LAN is, probably in like 2 weeks or so. So we'll get there when we get there. Anyways, that is all I've got. Please check out the streams, twitch.tv/LaneHemingway, or here on YouTube, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Down below in my Discord is all the links that you need to know. I will have a podcast episode coming out Friday, ideally. If it gets pushed to Saturday, it's just going to have to happen. But yeah, okay, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please have a good day.